What is up guys, Andy Forrestine Runner here, and today we're going to be talking all about the New Balance 1080 version 10 and how it performed on the speed test and the long run test. 35 miles now done and dusted in the New Balance 1080 version 10, including the speed test and the long run test. We've done 8 by 1k in the shoe, and we've also done a 17-mile long run. Today I'll be giving you my thoughts on both of those sessions and give you an overall as to how it's done across the two tests. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and without further ado, we'll start with the speed test. So I didn't intend on giving this thing such a hard start with 8 by 1k with 2 minutes static rest, but it just so happened that I got the shoe on the day of Tuesday when I was going to do a workout anyway, and I thought, sod it, why not, let's chuck it in at the deep end and see how it handles it. Now, as I said in my first impressions video, and if you haven't seen that, make sure you go and watch that for my first impressions on the shoe, just give a bit of background on the first easy run that we did in it. This shoe in my size is indeed over 12 ounces, so it's a heavy, quite a heavy shoe for me. I know in the lighter sizes it's quite a decent weight, but for me it is a heavier shoe, so I wasn't expecting great things. Now, bearing in mind when I've done 1k reps in the past, I haven't done these for about 7 or 8 months. It was the summer or autumn time when I last did these, and I was struggling to get around 3:30. Well, all paces are on screen now, so you will see the rep times that we did, and to be perfectly honest with you, A, it shows such an improvement in my fitness level, but B, how well the shoe handled it. And I've got to be honest with you, throughout the workout, despite the weight, and I did notice the weight when I was doing it, it certainly didn't feel particularly easy. I just took it in my stride, and the shoe certainly didn't fight me. It just felt a little bit like there was a bit of extra weight on the bottom, but it certainly didn't feel like on my trail run and my easy run towards the end of the run, around miles 6, 7 and 8, I did start to feel like my foot was sinking into the shoe a little bit, and I was having to work a bit harder per stride. That certainly wasn't the case when we were out on the concrete. And throughout the reps, I just seemed to get stronger and better, and to be clocking those times, low 320s, and of course breaking 320, getting 318, it was insane when I got back. And I said to myself at the time, this shoe felt really, really good doing it. Now, would I use this thing again in this speed workout? Probably not. I've got better shoes for it. This isn't designed for it. But in terms of if you guys are looking for a daily trainer, and you have smaller shoe size than me, so the weight on the shoe is going to be slightly lighter, it certainly handled the speed workout well. So if you're looking for a shoe that's going to do everything, yeah, I wouldn't particularly recommend it for speed stuff, but you can get it done in it. And to be fair, as I said, there was some good pop in the Fresh Foam X midsole. It felt really, really good. As I said, I did not feel at all like my foot was sinking into it. So overall, pretty happy with that. But how did it fare on the long run? The long run was an interesting one. I had the first impression from the speed workout, because that's the first run we did, where it did really, really well, and then of course the second run where we slightly started to sink into the shoe a little bit. For those of you who don't know, I live in the Forest of Dean. It's a beautiful area. We've got lovely, lovely buffed out trails around here. I run all my road shoes on those trails, and at the end of that trail run, as I said, my foot did feel like it started to sink in to the shoe just a little bit. I was having to work a little bit harder per stride, but other than that, was the only gripe I had with the shoe other than weight. So it was going to be interesting to see how it handled a 17-mile long run. At the moment, my wife is heavily pregnant. We're expecting a baby any day, so I was trying to keep the loop pretty close to home in case I got an emergency phone call, which meant that half the loop that I did was done on tarmac and half the loop I did was done on the trails. And I've got to say, I did not get that sinking feeling on this occasion. It felt really, really good. And in fact, actually what happened is in this training block that we're in at the moment, I ended up clocking some of the fastest times, feeling as comfortable as I had done in this shoe, which was really, really encouraging. It really made me think, actually, this could be a really, really decent long run shoe. The midsole is firm enough not to, well, take the Propel for example, a really soft cushioned midsole which will take you round like you're running on clouds on a really nice easy long run. If you wanted to pick up the pace a little bit, then you're going to want a midsole like this that has just a little bit of pop in it. And this had it. It worked really well. I was ended up clocking 6:30-minute mile pace, 6:40-minute mile pace, and some of the efforts on the tarmac, and then low sevens up on the trail. So overall, this thing handled the long run really, really well. So with the combination of those tests done, how am I going to be using this shoe more moving forward? How did I feel about it in both those tests? And of course, more importantly, will I be using them in those situations again? Well, naturally, as you can imagine, the speed side of things, it was really, really good. It blew my mind actually as to how well it did in it. But I don't intend to use this shoe much for speed work. I'll use it in an emergency if I need it. I know that this thing has got it in its engine for me to do speed work in if I wanted to. And actually, where it would fare better is those longer marathon pace reps, maybe 2-mile repeats, maybe even mile repeats. It's a good shoe that once you get going, it feels good, but it's certainly not light. It's certainly not snappy enough for me to want to reach for it. And that's going to come in another review at some point when we get a speedier shoe. I'm hoping in March we'll get a shoe where we can really dial in with that speed workout, and I can ditch the Zoom Fly 3 that I have been using this week in training. But as it goes for the long run, could this possibly be my next long run shoe that I end up gravitating to? Yes, it very well could be. It was such a good, comfortable ride. And the thing that I didn't like about the Beacon with the Fresh Foam midsole was that it was just too firm. I did 2.5 hours in the Beacon and my feet were on fire at the end of it. This is Fresh Foam X, so an upgraded version of the Fresh Foam, which I wasn't aware of the first time I did my first impressions video, so apologies about that, but I now know. As I said in my first impressions, it did feel a bit more responsive and a bit better, and that's because of course it's Fresh Foam X. It felt really, really good. I did 2 hours in the shoe, my feet did not feel like they were on fire, which was great. And I would certainly consider using it again. And unlike other people with this heel counter that some people get frustrated with, my foot just locks in so nicely. The elastic laces, as I said in my first impressions, just cinching up from the bottom all the way up. No issues with laces, nothing came undone. It was just a really perfect ride, to the point where I'd almost give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I think I've run in the Pegasus Turbo 2, sadly is retired, but that was a really, really ideal long run shoe. But this thing is certainly way up there, and I would highly recommend it for the easy days and the long run days. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how I will be using this shoe moving forwards. At the moment in my rotation, I will be using this and the Propel for the easy days, but I'm certainly going to gravitate towards this more. And then of course we've got the Zoom Fly 3 for the speed stuff until we wait for March to get a new speedier shoe to slot into that rotation. Any recommendations? Drop them in the comments below. So there we go, those are my thoughts, my overall thoughts on this thing, how it performed in the speed test, how it performed in the long run test. But as always, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you've got this shoe, which I know a lot of you guys have because you've commented on the first impressions video, how do you use it? Have you used it on a speed session? A slightly unorthodox shoe to use in a speed session, but as I said to you guys, it worked, and it worked well for me. Do you use it in that situation? And of course, do you use it on the long run? Do you just stick to it as a daily trainer? Let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with the New Balance 1080 version 10. So that's it for today's video, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already, please do give the video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then.